The morning sun cast long shadows across Rose's diner when she spotted it. A black Ford F-150 with California plates prowling the empty street like a predator. Her grip tightened on the coffee pot until her knuckles went white. 15 months. 15 months of hiding in this forgotten corner of Iowa. And now they'd found her. The bell above the door sang its familiar tune, but the man who entered moved like controlled violence, broad shoulders cutting through the doorframe, a vicious scar mapping devastation from temple to jaw. Behind him, a boy with hollow eyes pressed a battered sketchbook to his chest like armor. The stranger's gaze devoured every corner, every exit, every shadow where danger might lurk. Professional. Predatory. Rose's heart hammered against her ribs as she painted on her practiced smile. "Morning, folks. Coffee?" The word barely escaped her constricted throat. He chose the corner booth, back to the wall, eyes on the street. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of secrets, darker than her own. "Make mine black," he said, those steel-grey eyes boring into hers. "And keep it coming." Rose's blood turned to winter. After all this time, had Marcus Delacroix finally sent someone to collect what he believed she'd stolen? Connor Blake studied the woman behind the counter as she poured his coffee. Her hands trembled, not from cold, but from fear. The kind of fear he'd seen in combat zones, when civilians spotted soldiers and wondered if today was the day their luck ran out. Tyler slid into the booth across from him, sketchbook already open, pencil moving across paper in careful strokes. 15 months since Jessica's funeral, and his son still spoke in whispers, still flinched when strangers got too close. The boy needed stability, needed somewhere safe to heal from wounds that ran deeper than flesh. "What are you drawing, buddy?" Connor kept his voice gentle, but his peripheral vision tracked the waitress. She'd retreated behind the counter, but her eyes kept darting to the parking lot. "The river," Tyler whispered. "The one we passed coming into town." His pencil sketched flowing lines, a small boat anchored near the shore. "Mom used to say rivers always know where they're going, even when they look lost." Connor's throat tightened. Jessica had said that exact thing during their last conversation. 3 days before the car accident that wasn't an accident. 3 days before Connor's world exploded into fragments he was still trying to piece together. He'd brought Tyler to Cedar Falls because small towns were supposed to be safe. Anonymous. Places where 8-year-old boys could learn to smile again without looking over their shoulders. The waitress approached with steady steps, but Connor caught the slight tremor in her left hand. "Hot chocolate for the young artist?" Her voice held warmth that didn't quite reach her eyes. Eyes that kept checking the window, scanning faces on the sidewalk like she was memorizing escape routes. "Yes, please," Tyler said, then looked up at her with curiosity that had been absent for months. "Do you know where Mill Creek Marina is? I want to draw the boats there." Something flickered across the woman's face. Recognition, maybe fear. "About 3 miles north," she said carefully. "Beautiful spot, very quiet." The way she emphasized quiet sent warning signals through Connor's trained instincts. "Thank you, miss." "Rose." The name came too quickly, like she'd rehearsed it. "Rose Martinez." Connor nodded, filing away the microtells. The slight pause before her name, the way her accent didn't quite match her supposed Hispanic heritage, the defensive positioning of her shoulders. This woman was running from something, just like he was. "I'm Connor. This is Tyler." He watched her reaction to their names, but saw only polite acknowledgement. Either she was very good at hiding recognition, or they weren't the people she was afraid of. Yet. Rose set down Tyler's hot chocolate and lingered for a moment, studying the boy's sketch. "You're very talented, the way you capture the water movement. It's like you can see the current beneath the surface." Tyler's pencil stopped moving. He looked up at Rose with the first genuine interest Connor had seen in months. "You know about drawing?" "A little." Rose's smile became real, transforming her entire face. "I used to. I had more time for art before I came here." "Before you came here from where?" The question slipped out before Connor could stop it. Rose's mask snapped back into place. "Lots of places. I'm not much for staying put." She turned away, but not before Connor caught the flash of panic in her dark eyes. As she retreated to the kitchen, Connor made his decision. Cedar Falls might be a small town, but it was harboring big secrets. And something about Rose Martinez, if that was even her real name, told him their paths had crossed for reasons neither of them understood yet. Tyler needed stability, but Connor couldn't ignore the combat veteran's intuition screaming that this woman was in danger, the same kind of danger that had killed Jessica. 3 weeks later, Tyler had claimed the corner booth as his own personal art studio. Every afternoon after school, he'd slide into the red vinyl seat with his sketchbook and colored pencils, transforming Rose's diner into his private gallery. Connor watched from across the room, pretending to read the Cedar Falls Gazette while actually studying the subtle choreography between his son and the enigmatic waitress. "Miss Rose, do you think boats dream?" Tyler asked, adding careful shading to a sailboat's hull. Rose paused in her coffee refilling, considering the question with the seriousness it deserved. "I think they dream of deep water and fair winds, of carrying people to places they've never seen." "I dream about boats, too," Tyler said quietly. "In my dreams, Mom's there. She's the captain, and she knows exactly where we're going." Connor's newspaper crinkled as his grip tightened. Tyler rarely mentioned Jessica anymore, and when he did, it was always in past tense, like she was a story someone had told him once. Rose set down the coffee pot and slid into the booth beside Tyler. "Tell me about your mom." "She was beautiful," Tyler said, his pencil moving again. "And she smelled like vanilla and warm bread. She used to make cinnamon rolls on Sunday mornings." He glanced at Rose. "You smell like that sometimes." Connor watched Rose's face carefully. There, a flicker of something deeper than politeness. Pain, maybe. Recognition of loss. "Your mom sounds wonderful," Rose said softly. "I bet she'd love to see your artwork." "Dad says she can see it from heaven, but I'm not sure I believe in heaven anymore." Tyler's matter-of-fact delivery hit Connor like a physical blow. "Do you believe in heaven, Miss Rose?" Rose was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing the edge of Tyler's sketchbook. "I believe in love that doesn't end when people go away. Whether that's heaven or something else, I don't know. But I think love finds ways to keep existing." Tyler nodded solemnly, then brightened. "Could you teach me to make cinnamon rolls, like Mom used to?" "Tyler." Connor started to intervene, but Rose was already nodding. "Tomorrow after school. I'll show you the secret ingredient." She winked at Tyler, then caught Connor's eye. "If your dad doesn't mind." Connor found himself nodding before he'd consciously decided. Something about Rose's gentleness with Tyler, the way she listened like his words mattered, reminded him why he'd fallen in love with Jessica in the first place. "Just be careful with the oven," he heard himself saying. Rose laughed, the first genuine laugh he'd heard from her. "I've been handling hot things longer than you might think." The words carried weight Connor couldn't decipher, but he filed them away with all the other mysteries surrounding Rose Martinez. That evening, as he walked Tyler home from the diner, his son spoke more than he had in months. "Dad, why don't you talk to Miss Rose more?" "What do you mean, buddy?" "You watch her like you're trying to figure out a puzzle, and she watches you back when she thinks you're not looking." Tyler kicked a pebble down the sidewalk. "Mom used to say, That's how people act when they want to be friends but don't know how. Connor stopped walking. Tyler, we're just passing through. But you signed a year lease on the house. Tyler's observation hit with uncomfortable accuracy. And you bought me art supplies yesterday. Mom always said you only bought permanent things when you were planning to stay somewhere. The boy was right. Connor had intended to spend one night in Cedar Falls, maybe two. Just long enough to figure out their next move, their next safe haven. But watching Tyler's face light up during those afternoon art sessions with Rose had changed something fundamental in Connor's calculations. For the first time since Jessica's death, his son was engaging with the world instead of retreating from it. Maybe I am planning to stay, Connor admitted. Would you like that? Tyler's answer came without hesitation. Only if Miss Rose stays too. That night, Connor couldn't sleep. He stood at his bedroom window, watching the empty street that led to downtown Cedar Falls. 3 blocks away, Rose's apartment windows glowed yellow against the darkness. He'd followed her home twice, not stalking, just ensuring she arrived safely. Old habits from a life he'd tried to leave behind. Both times he'd watched her check her locks 3 times before turning on the lights. Both times she'd stood at her window for long minutes, scanning the street like she was expecting unwelcome visitors. Rose Martinez was running from something, and Connor's instincts told him that something was catching up. 2 days later, Connor arrived at the diner early. Rose's silver Honda wasn't in the back parking lot. The lights were off. The familiar open sign remained dark and silent. "Dad, where's Miss Rose?" Tyler pressed his face against the passenger window. "She promised to show me how to make pie crust today." Connor checked his watch. 7:30 am. Rose had opened at 7 every morning for the past month. Maybe she's running late, buddy. But Connor's gut told him different. The same gut that had kept him alive through 6 combat deployments was screaming warnings now. He drove Tyler to school, promising to check on Rose later, but the unease followed him like smoke. At 9 a.m., Connor stood outside Rose's apartment building. Her Honda sat in its assigned space, but something felt wrong. The morning newspaper lay untouched on her doorstep. Mail protruded from an overstuffed mailbox. Either Rose had left in a hurry, or she hadn't left at all. Connor knocked. No answer. He tried the door handle. Locked. But the window beside the fire escape was cracked open, blinds askew like someone had left quickly, or been taken. The apartment had been searched, professionally. Drawers pulled out, but contents barely disturbed. Couch cushions shifted just enough to check underneath. Whoever had done this knew how to look without appearing to look. Connor's blood chilled as he recognized the technique. CIA methodology. The kind used when you needed information but wanted to maintain plausible deniability. On the kitchen table, a single sheet of paper waited like a calling card. If you want Rose to see another sunrise, come to Mill Creek Marina at 8 p.m. Come alone. Tell no one. You have something that belongs to us, and we have something that belongs to you. Connor's hands shook as he turned the paper over. A Polaroid photograph showed Rose bound to a chair, duct tape across her mouth, terror stark in her dark eyes. But it was the background that made Connor's world tilt sideways. Concrete walls, exposed pipes, the distinctive green paint of a government facility he recognized from classified briefings. Rose wasn't just running from criminals. She was running from people with the resources and ruthlessness of his former employers. Connor pocketed the note and photograph, his mind already shifting into tactical mode. Whoever had taken Rose expected him to show up unprepared, emotional, making mistakes. They'd miscalculated. They'd taken someone Tyler cared about, and that made this personal in ways they couldn't comprehend. But first, he needed backup. And in a town like Cedar Falls, backup meant Sheriff Thompson, a man whose handshake suggested military experience and whose eyes held the steady calm of someone who'd seen violence and chosen peace. Connor found Sheriff Thompson at the courthouse, reviewing incident reports over coffee and what looked like yesterday's donuts. "Sheriff, I need to report a kidnapping." Thompson looked up, instantly alert. "Who's missing?" "Rose Martinez, the woman who runs the diner." Connor placed the photograph on Thompson's desk. "I found this in her apartment an hour ago." Thompson studied the image, his expression hardening. "You recognize the location?" "Government facility. The kind used for black site operations." Connor met Thompson's eyes. "I think Rose was involved in something classified, and I think the people who took her believe I'm involved too." "Are you?" Connor appreciated the direct question. "Not in whatever they think I'm involved in. But yes, I have classified history. Navy SEAL, 6 tours, honorable discharge 15 months ago after my wife died." He paused. "My wife Jessica was killed because she was investigating something called Operation Nightfall. I brought Tyler here because I thought we'd be safe." Thompson leaned back in his chair. "Son, you just brought a world of trouble to my quiet little town." "I know, and I'm sorry for that. But Rose doesn't deserve to pay for my problems." "Rose Martinez." Thompson repeated the name slowly. "Funny thing about that name. I ran background checks on all new residents. Rose Martinez has a social security number that was issued 2 years ago to a woman who'd be 93 years old if she were still alive." Connor's pulse quickened. "You knew she was using a false identity?" "I suspected. But in my experience, people running from abusive husbands or stalkers don't usually have the resources for that kind of professional identity work." Thompson stood up, reaching for his gun belt. "People running from government agencies do." "You'll help me?" "Tyler's been the first good thing to happen to this town in years. That boy's smile could light up a church basement, and Rose Martinez, or whoever she really is, put that smile back on his face." Thompson checked his service weapon. "Nobody hurts Tyler's people on my watch." As they drove toward Mill Creek Marina, Thompson shared what Connor needed to know. "Marina's been closed for renovations since Labor Day. Owner's been in Florida for 2 months. Perfect place for a quiet conversation that nobody wants interrupted." "How many buildings?" "Main office, 2 storage warehouses, fuel depot, all connected by wooden walkways over the water. Easy to control access, hard to escape if you're outnumbered." Connor studied the approach through binoculars. 6 p.m., 2 hours before the scheduled meeting. "I see 2 vehicles. The van from Rose's apartment, plus a black sedan. Professional-grade window tinting." "How many people you figure?" "Minimum 4. Probably 6. Connor lowered the binoculars. "They'll have Rose in the main warehouse, guards posted at choke points, standard extraction setup." "You sound like you've done this before." "More times than I want to remember." Connor checked his sidearm. A Glock 19 he'd hoped never to use again. "Sheriff, if this goes bad, Tyler's staying with neighbors tonight. Promise me you'll make sure he's okay." "Son, this isn't going bad. We're bringing Rose home." At 7:45 p.m., Connor walked alone across the marina parking lot. His footsteps echoed off the wooden planks as he approached the main warehouse. Motion sensors triggered floodlights, turning the walkway into a stage. Exactly what they wanted. Full visibility, no shadows to hide in. The warehouse door stood open. Connor stepped inside, hands visible, moving slowly. Rose sat in the center of the space, zip-tied to a metal chair, duct tape across her mouth. Her eyes widened when she saw him. Not relief, but warning. "Blake!" A voice emerged from the shadows. "Right on time." 3 men materialized from concealment positions. Professional spacing, professional weapons handling. Connor recognized the type. Military contractors. The kind hired when government agencies needed plausible deniability. "Let her go." Connor kept his voice level. "Your quarrel's with me." "Our quarrel is with Maria Santos," the lead contractor said. "The woman who stole $3 million from a classified operations account. The woman who's been selling government secrets to fund her new identity. Connor felt pieces clicking into place. Rose isn't Maria Santos. DNA says otherwise. We've been tracking her for 18 months. Credit card usage in Sacramento, cell phone pings in Nevada, finally a facial recognition hit from your local bank's security camera. The contractor smiled. Your girlfriend has been very expensive to find. She's not my girlfriend. We barely know each other. Funny, because Maria Santos's apartment was full of pictures of your son. Seems she's been watching your family for weeks before you showed up here. Connor's blood chilled. Pictures of Tyler? Rose had been surveilling them. The contractor continued. See, Blake, we initially thought you were working together. Former Navy SEAL teams up with rogue CIA accountant to steal classified funds. Made sense. But watching you two this past month, we realized something interesting. He gestured to Rose. She doesn't know who you really are, either. What do you mean? Operation Nightfall, Blake. Syria, 2019. You were part of the extraction team that recovered CIA officer Vincent Crawford from enemy custody. The contractor's voice dropped. Except Crawford didn't die from his injuries. You killed him, with a potassium chloride injection, on direct orders from your commanding officer. Connor's world tilted. No, I gave him morphine for the pain. He was dying anyway. The morphine was a cover story. The injection contained a paralytic agent followed by cardiac arrest induction. Crawford had discovered arms trafficking through CIA front companies. He was going to expose the entire operation. The contractor smiled coldly. Maria Santos is Vincent Crawford's daughter, and she's been hunting for his killers for 2 years. Connor stared at Rose. Her eyes above the duct tape held no hatred, only sadness. She'd known. This entire time, she'd known who he was. The beautiful part, the contractor continued, is that neither of you knows the whole truth. Blake, you were a patsy. Crawford was already dead when your team arrived. Heart attack, brought on by enhanced interrogation. Your CO needed someone to take the blame if the operation ever came to light. That's impossible. Check the timeline. Crawford's medical records show cardiac arrest at 1400 hours. Your team didn't reach the facility until 1530. You injected a corpse, Blake. But Maria here has been convinced for 2 years that you murdered her father in cold blood. Connor's knees nearly buckled. The morphine was actually morphine. Your CO was covering his own tracks by making you think you'd committed murder. Guilt and paranoia make excellent motivators for silence. The contractor walked to Rose, cutting the zip ties with a tactical knife. Stand up, Maria. Rose stood slowly, working feeling back into her wrists. When she pulled off the duct tape, her first words shattered Connor's heart. Vincent Crawford was my father. Her voice was steady, but tears tracked down her cheeks. I've been searching for the man who killed him for 24 months. When I found Blake's name in the classified files, I followed him here. To do what? Connor asked. To understand. Rose looked directly at him. To see if you were a monster or just another victim. And I watched you with Tyler. I saw how you love him, how you protect him, how you've sacrificed everything to give him a normal life after losing his mother. Rose's voice broke. My father wrote in his final journal entry that a Navy SEAL had tried to save him, that the man had been gentle, had tried to ease his pain. Connor felt understanding dawn. You knew I didn't kill him. I've known for weeks, but I also knew that someone wanted us both to believe you did. And I knew that same someone had killed your wife when she got too close to the truth. The contractor raised his weapon. Touching, but this reunion needs to end. Both of you know too much about Operation Nightfall to walk away. Wait. Connor stepped between the gun and Rose. You said Maria stole $3 million. Where is it? Donated. Every penny. to veterans' organizations, widows' funds, children's charities. The contractor's smile turned predatory. She destroyed 2 years of covert funding in a single afternoon, cost us 17 active operations. Operations like the one that killed my father, Rose said. Like the one that killed Jessica Blake. Collateral damage in the defense of American interests. Murder, Connor corrected. You mean murder? The warehouse fell silent except for the lap of water against the pilings below. Connor calculated angles, distances, probabilities of success. 3 armed men, 1 hostage, limited cover. Not impossible odds, but not favorable either. Then Tyler's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Dad? Connor spun toward the warehouse entrance. Tyler stood silhouetted against the floodlights. Sheriff Thompson beside him, both figures dark against the harsh illumination. Tyler, get back to the car! But Tyler was already running toward them, and the contractors were turning their weapons toward new targets. Connor had milliseconds to act. The next 30 seconds exploded into chaos. Connor tackled the nearest contractor as Sheriff Thompson's shotgun boomed across the warehouse. Rose dove behind a stack of plastic chairs as bullets splintered wood and pinged off metal support beams. Tyler scrambled for cover behind a maintenance cart, his sketchbook clutched against his chest. When the gunfire stopped, 2 contractors lay motionless on the concrete floor. The third, the one who'd done all the talking, sat against a warehouse wall, clutching a wounded shoulder, his weapon kicked beyond reach. Connor knelt beside Rose, checking for injuries. Are you hurt? I'm okay. She touched his face, fingers gentle against his cheek. Are you okay? Before Connor could answer, Tyler launched himself into their arms, wrapping both adults in a fierce embrace. I was so scared, he whispered. I thought they were going to take you away like they took Mom. Connor held his son tight, meeting Rose's eyes over Tyler's head. Nobody's taking anybody away. We're safe now. Sheriff Thompson approached the wounded contractor, badge gleaming under the warehouse lights. Federal agents are en route. This gentleman is going to have some explaining to do about illegal surveillance, kidnapping, and attempted murder in my jurisdiction. The contractor laughed weakly. You have no idea what you're interfering with. I'm interfering with people hurting a little boy, and the woman who makes him smile. Thompson's voice carried quiet authority. In my book, that makes this pretty simple. As they waited for the FBI, Connor sat with Rose on the warehouse steps, Tyler curled between them, finally asleep after the adrenaline crash. The boys' sketchbook lay open across their laps, pages full of boats and rivers, houses and families, all the dreams of a child learning to hope again. Rose, Connor said quietly. Maria, whatever name you want to use, I need to ask you something. Ask? Did you come to Cedar Falls to find me, or to hide from them? Rose was quiet for so long Connor thought she wouldn't answer. Finally, she spoke. Both. I'd been running for 18 months when I saw your name in my father's files. I convinced myself I needed answers about what really happened to him. But honestly, she looked down at Tyler's peaceful face. I think I was just tired of running alone. And now? Now I know the truth about my father, and about your wife, and about the people who've been hunting us both. Rose's fingers found Connor's hand. The question is, what do we do with that truth? Connor considered the question. They could disappear again, take new names, start over in another small town. Or they could stay in Cedar Falls, build something real together, give Tyler the stability he needed. Tyler asked me something yesterday. Connor said. He wanted to know if I could love you and still love Jessica. Rose turned to look at him. What did you tell him? That love isn't a finite resource. That honoring Jessica's memory doesn't mean closing my heart to everyone else. Connor squeezed Rose's hand. I told him I thought his mom would want us to be happy, all of us. Even with someone who isn't who she pretended to be. Especially with someone who knows what it's like to lose everything and still choose to protect others. Connor studied Rose's profile in the warehouse lighting. Maria Santos or Rose Martinez, you're still the woman who taught my son to laugh again. 2 months later, Tyler stood in the kitchen of their new house, a 2-story colonial 3 blocks from the diner, putting finishing touches on a family portrait. 3 figures stood in front of a small restaurant, holding hands, smiling. Is it accurate? Rose asked, setting down plates of scrambled eggs and toast. Almost. Tyler added careful shading to Rose's hair. But I need to draw Mom, too. Connor looked up from the Cedar Falls Gazette. Draw her how, buddy? In the sky, like a cloud, watching over us. Tyler's pencil moved with confident strokes. Mom would like Rose, and she'd be happy we found each other. Rose sat down beside Tyler, studying the drawing. How do you know that? Because Mom always told me that love grows bigger when you share it. She said people who've lost someone understand how precious love really is. Tyler looked between Rose and Connor. You both lost people you loved, so when you love each other, you're really good at it. Connor felt his throat tighten. Where did you learn to be so wise? From watching you and Rose. You both know how to love someone without trying to replace someone else. Tyler added final details to the Cloud Jessica figure. That's the best kind of love. The kind that makes room for everybody. That afternoon, they walked to Mill Creek Marina, no longer a place of trauma, but a destination for family outings. Tyler ran ahead with Buddy, the golden retriever Sheriff Thompson had surprised them with last month. The dog bounded along the wooden walkways, tail wagging, completely unaware that this peaceful waterfront had once been a battlefield. Connor, Rose said, her hand warm in his. Do you ever regret staying, choosing this quiet life instead of, I don't know, something more adventurous? Connor stopped walking, turning to face the woman who'd become the center of his rebuilt world. You know what I used to think adventure meant? Combat missions, danger, proving myself in impossible situations. And now? Now I know real adventure is learning to trust again, building something permanent with people who understand the cost of losing everything. Connor touched Rose's face. Adventure is watching Tyler learn to hope again. It's waking up next to someone who knows my worst secrets and chooses to stay anyway. Rose smiled. Even when those secrets involve fake identities and federal investigations? Especially then, because those secrets led us to each other. They continued toward the end of the pier, where Tyler was teaching Buddy to sit on command. The boy's laughter carried across the water, clear and bright, and completely unself-conscious. For the first time in 20 months, Connor could envision a future that included joy. Dad! Rose! Tyler called out. Come see what I taught Buddy! As they approached, Tyler's expression grew thoughtful. Dad, can I ask you something? Always. I think Mom Jessica would like Rose a lot, and I think she'd be happy we found each other. Connor knelt to Tyler's level. What makes you think that? Because Mom used to say that real love doesn't try to keep people all to herself. Real love wants people to be happy, even when she can't be there to see it. Tyler looked out over the water, where the setting sun painted everything gold. And I think Mom can see it, from wherever she is now. Rose knelt beside them, one arm around Tyler, one hand on Connor's shoulder. Your mom sounds like she was very smart. She was, and she would have loved you. Tyler leaned into Rose's embrace, just like we do. As the sun disappeared behind the Iowa hills, the 3 of them sat on the end of the pier, watching boats return to harbor for the night. Tyler sketched the scene in his ever-present notebook, while Connor and Rose simply existed in the quiet contentment of people who'd found their way home. Sometimes the best adventures begin when you stop running from the past and start building something worth staying for. Sometimes the deepest secrets, when finally shared, become the foundation for the strongest love. And sometimes, in small towns where diners serve coffee and hope in equal measure, broken families find ways to heal each other, one shared meal at a time. In Cedar Falls, Iowa, Rose's Diner remained open every morning at 7 a.m. sharp. The coffee was always fresh, the conversation always warm, and if you listened carefully, you could hear the sound of a family that had found each other across miles of pain and years of running. They'd learned that love isn't about replacing what was lost. It's about making room for what can be found. And in a town where everyone knew everyone's business, somehow the most important business of all, the business of healing broken hearts, happened quietly, one morning, coffee at a time. The deadly secret that had brought them together became the foundation that kept them strong. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is trust someone completely. And sometimes that's exactly what saves you.